When people see her, they often assume she's my mother. But no, she's my grandmother, Rawney. She's the woman who sacrificed everything for me. The woman who, without hesitation, took on the role of both mother and father in my life. From the time I was just 1 year old, she became my entire world. My biological mother. She was busy working, trying to provide for us. I don't blame her, but it meant she couldn't be there for me in the way I needed. My father, he left before I was even born. So, it was Grandma Rawney who stepped up, who gave me a home and a family when the world felt empty. She lived alone. My grandfather had passed away before I was born. A stroke and heart disease had taken him. But despite her loss, she never let it weigh her down. When I was old enough to understand, she'd tell me stories about him, how he was a hard worker, never one to sit still. She'd talk about him with a kind of quiet pride, but I could see the loneliness in her eyes. My presence helped fill the void in her heart. She said I was her second chance at love, at family. When I turned 13, I started helping Grandma at the market. She was a vegetable seller, one of the best in town. Her stall was always busy, her produce always fresh. But success in the market also meant jealousy from others. There was one vendor who particularly disliked her. He'd mutter cruel words under his breath, mock her in front of customers. One day, I couldn't take it anymore. I grabbed a tomato and threw it straight at him. He wasn't amused. He came charging at me, ready to hit. But Grandma stepped in. She shielded me, her small frame standing tall and defiant. She even paid him compensation for the trouble. On the way home, I braced myself for the scolding I thought I deserved. But instead, Grandma laughed. Holding up a tomato, she said, "You're brave, you know that. But next time, let's not waste the tomatoes, okay?" Time moved faster than I expected. Before I knew it, I was packing my bags to leave for university in the city. It was my first time away from the village, away from her. The first week was the hardest. Every night, I'd lie in bed, staring at the ceiling, wondering how she was doing. I called her often. She'd always reassure me, saying, "I'm strong, don't worry about me." Every 2 weeks, I'd visit her, and every time, I'd notice little things, how she moved a bit slower, how her hands trembled slightly as she cooked. Once, I asked her if she was okay. She smiled and said it was just a little lack of sleep, nothing to worry about, but deep down, I felt something wasn't right. 3 years passed, and I finally graduated. That day, both my mother and Grandma Rawney were there to celebrate with me. It was a bittersweet moment. I was grateful my mother could be there, but my heart belonged to Grandma. She was the one who had raised me, who had made this moment possible. For a brief moment, we were a family, a fractured, imperfect family, but a family nonetheless. 5 months after graduation, I got a job as a manager at a shipbuilding company. It was a great opportunity, but it came with a catch. It was far from home. The journey took nearly 20 hours, and visiting Grandma became difficult. Still, we found ways to stay connected. I taught her how to use video calls, a challenge for a 68-year-old, but she learned. We talked often, sharing laughs and stories. She always ended our calls with the same words: "Take care of yourself. and don't forget to eat. Years passed. Life got busier. One day, my mother called me, but I was swamped with work. I told her I'd call back later, promising we'd talk after I finished my tasks. That night, I was so exhausted, I forgot to call her back. How stupid of me. The next morning, at 6 a.m., my phone rang again. It was my mother. Her voice trembled as she told me, "Grandma is very sick. The doctor says she doesn't have much time." I froze. My heart felt like it had stopped beating. Cancer. She had been battling it for years and never told me. I booked the earliest flight home and rushed to the hospital. When I arrived, she was lying there, her body frail but her spirit as strong as ever. She smiled when she saw me. I broke down. Tears spilled onto the floor, onto her hands as I held them. "Why didn't you tell me?" She just smiled again and said, "I didn't want you to worry. You have your life to live." Her words felt like a dagger to my heart. All this time, she had been suffering in silence, just to protect me. A few hours later, she was gone. My mother told me, through her own tears, she was waiting for you. She held on just to see you one last time. Grandma Rawney wasn't just my grandmother. She was my parent, my protector, my guide. She gave me love when I had no one else, strength when I felt weak, and hope when the world felt hopeless. Her sacrifices, her unwavering love, they shaped who I am today. Losing her left a void in my heart, one that will never be filled. But I carry her with me in everything I do, in every success, in every act of kindness. If there's someone in your life who means the world to you, don't wait to tell them. Don't wait for tomorrow to show them your love, to say thank you. Life is fleeting, and the people we cherish most won't always be there. To my grandmother, wherever she is, thank you for everything. You were and always will be my greatest gift.